And hello, everybody. It's Lynn About Town on the Talk of the Town. And here we are today. It's Tuesday. And we are live at 5 or 5:06 as we go live on the radio.
Literally.
After our commercials. And I have a special guest with me today. His name is Jason Good. He is actually the epitome of his name. He's a good guy.
Oh.
So take it well. He is a friend of mine that I've met, how long would you say, 2 years?
Almost 3.
It's almost 3?
Mm-hmm. Time flies, doesn't it?
I'm really proud that you knew that, so thank you. It's almost 3 years, and we met because I tend to often do these little seminars at the Drug Free World Center, trying to keep youth and others off of harmful drugs. And one day my good friend Yvonne, I hope she's watching. Hi, Yvonne. And she said, hey, I have this great guy, Jason Good, and he has some great things to, current things to say about the drug situation and the scene and the opioid crisis, etc. And I think if you did your part and then tagged on with Jason to do that. So we've done that now about 5 times.
A bunch of times.
Yeah.
And then I always usually bring someone from the center
That's
to come
right.
over and give their success story about getting off drugs, which is awesome.
That's right.
You know,
And Jason always, what I love about Jason is he's honest and he really lets everyone ask him questions. So we're going to ask a few today.
Yeah.
So my show's about good guys, good activities, good groups, and good events. So I think it's only fitting that I finally have
Me here.
Jason Good here. That's right.
I'm happy to be here. I think it's important to talk about this.
It is. So let me, just quickly, why don't you tell your story like you want to call it your story?
Well, if you got 3 hours, I can tell you the whole story.
Well, we got about 10, 12 minutes.
Okay, good. Well, I'll condense it a little bit. So basically, what started my story and my journey into the world of addiction, honestly, was psychiatric drugging as a kid.
Okay.
And so I was young, I was kind of neurotic, and I had little quirky behaviors, and so as any kid in the early 90s, we got put on psychiatric drugs, whether it be antidepressants, and then that would cause a reaction. I would end up on Ritalin, that would cause a reaction, and everything kind of like compiles on, and you get one medication to handle the symptoms of the previous medication, then that one causes other symptoms, you get on a different med to handle that.
Right.
And so I got kind of indoctrinated into the idea that's like, if you think something's wrong, something's not quite right, you take a pill and you fix it.
Yeah.
Or you take some sort of drug and you fix it. And so by the time I was about 14, I was on antidepressants, antipsychotics, and Xanax before school every day.
That's before school.
Before school, yeah. So I would
Little body taking all that.
Yeah, I'm 6 feet, 200 pounds now, but back then I was like small Jason. And so I would go to school and first period the bell would ring and my head would hit the desk. And they would call my parents and say, Dr. and Mrs. Good, we think your son's on drugs. And no, he just takes his medication and goes to school. I was on a whole milligram of Xanax before school and milligram of Xanax after school. And so I was constantly in this kind of drugged out zombie-like state. And so when I went to college at University of Miami, I was still on a bunch of those medications. And so I would take other drugs to kind of mitigate the effects of those medications.
Sure, because you're trying to be alert, you're trying to study, you're trying to be doing your thing, and you couldn't.
Right. And so I'll say this. I came from a small town in Massachusetts. When I went to University of Miami, within 3 hours on that campus, I was offered probably 7 different types of drugs.
No kidding.
And they're like, oh, try this, have this, have this, have this. It was like, whoa, it's like a whole free-for-all for drugs.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the end of my sophomore year that I actually got hooked on cocaine. And when I tried it, and here's the thing. This is how insidious addiction is. No matter how many lessons you get about drugs, no matter how many people tell you how bad drugs are, you can get addicted, you can ruin your life. It's, winners don't use drugs, you just end up being a loser and all this stuff. None of that literally goes through your head the moment you're offered a drug and you have to make a split-second decision.
True.
And when I chose to try cocaine, it was a split-second decision. It was like, yeah, sure, why not?
Makes
And
sense
then
at the exact moment.
Everything else went out the door. All the things my parents had told me, the things, the DARE program in the 80s told me. I don't know how effective that program really was. And everything anyone had ever told me was out the window. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And as soon as I did that first line of cocaine, I had this realization that every one of my problems in life were gone. My low self-esteem, gone. The zombie-like state from the medications, gone. My self-confidence, way up. I was social, I could talk, and I felt like I had found like everything that was wrong with my life was fixed by that drug.
Right, and felt like that.
It did in that moment. It's completely artificial, but that's the thing. That's how addiction starts. you get the idea that the drugs help you survive better.
Mm-hmm.
So you keep taking it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it. And I found myself completely out of control, addicted to cocaine within a month of trying it.
Because you just keep trying to find that same feeling, those feelings you don't want to feel otherwise.
Why would I want to feel the way I did before when if I snort a line of cocaine, everything else is perfect and fine and wonderful and life is great? And before I felt like it wasn't because I had, some issues going on.
Right.
And so I kept using it. Eventually, opiates came into the picture, and then the opiates took control. I had knee surgery. And
So let me ask you that. So let's just say you're doing quote unquote this drug that makes you feel wonderful.
Right.
Why would you then go to opiates? What was the drive behind that?
Well, I had knee surgery.
Okay.
And so I had torn my lateral meniscus, a piece of cartilage in my knee, and so they removed it, and I had the surgery, left, and had a prescription for Vicodin. And as soon as I took that, another realization happened. Wow, life is way more comfortable, and the emotional pain that kind of feels gone. So that's great. I'll just keep taking those. And so I had bouts on and off with opiates, and things got eventually completely out of control, and that's when I started trying to go to rehab. Okay, so my parents finally figured out there's a big problem. I was living back down in Florida after having moved back to Massachusetts and back down to Florida, trying to run from my addiction everywhere, and it kept following me no matter where I went. And so, everything kind of came to a head, and my parents were like, okay, we found a rehab, you're going to go. And so I started just kind of bouncing around different rehab centers. First was a wilderness program in Utah, where they're apparently rubbing sticks together, making fires, and learning how to live off the land was going to keep me sober. Didn't work. Bounced around a bunch of 12-step centers in Southeast Florida. None of those worked. And after the sixth time of rehab failing, six different attempts, same rehab center twice, detoxes, halfway houses, all that stuff. And I kept getting told, you have a disease, you need to take your medications, because you have personality disorders and mood disorders and all sorts of stuff like this. And addiction is a mental disorder. And so the first step of understanding your whole situation is there's nothing you can do about it.
Right, live with it.
You have a disease, you're powerless over it, and that's the end of it. And so I'm constantly being, I call it brainwash, because I'm constantly trying to reinforce over and over again. There's nothing you can do. You need to take your meds,
you are an
go
addict.
to meetings.
You are an
You're
addict.
always going to be like this.
Right.
And I mean, if you don't like it, sorry, but and you know what? You might not make it. And if you use again, don't worry. That's part of getting sober. And I didn't believe in any of it.
Right.
First of all, I didn't think I was diseased.
I never thought of it like that. Keeps the customers coming, quite honestly, because let's face it, if you fail, then it's not going to be odd to go back to the place that you failed at if all along in the process and all the mental health practitioners and everyone is saying, oh no, you do fail. You just go back in.
Yeah, well, that's the idea that they have is relapse is a part of recovery. Okay, so let's back that up. Using drugs is a part of not using drugs. Whereas doesn't make sense, not to me at least. And so, in traditional, I always say traditional like this, traditional rehab, it's like the idea is since it's a disease, you have to take another drug to replace the drugs you're taking because, I mean, that's what you do.
That's what you do.
That's what the doctors tell you to do. That's what the practitioners tell you to do. And the last rehab I was at basically told my parents I'd sooner die than get clean.
Wow.
Right.
But we'll take your check if you want to try it anyway.
Yeah, and insurance, they love insurance. Down in Southeast Florida, there's always those problems, all those centers out there that are going after people's insurance. But either way, so failed rehab 6 times, and I found myself holed up in a crack house in Miami, and I got a hold of my parents and said, I don't know what to do. I think I'm probably going to die.
Right.
And so they happened upon some interventionist website who referred them to Narconon. And I went out to Narconon. They said, we don't really know what you're going to do. We don't know too much about this. Apparently, it's not 12-step. They're actually going to handle whatever it is that needs to get handled, and you're going to sweat in a sauna, and everything's going to be fine. I said, great, sign me up.
Sounds different anyway.
And me, to give you a mental picture of what I looked like a complete addict. I mean, I had my lips burnt by a crack pipe. I had scabs all over my arms. I had track marks everywhere, and I had no ID. And somehow I got on a plane post 9/11 and ended up out at Narconon, California. And my life has been drastically different ever since because the thing is that Narconon has the idea, does a complete 180 from the 12-step traditional recovery and 12-step traditional recovery is going to say you're going to be an addict for the rest of your life. You're always going to be like this, and it's because of things that are completely out of your control, like a disease.
Right.
Narconon says, well, no. I mean, you have
We're
situations.
going to put you in the driver's seat again.
Yeah, it's like we're going to handle your addiction on a physical level first, and we're going to
Mm-hmm.
get the drugs out of your system so you can think straight again, kind of make logical choices and deal with your cravings a little bit, and then we're just going to kind of chip away and see what underlies all this. Because okay, so drugs are a solution to a problem. Good. What are they a solution to?
Right.
And let's handle that. And it's kind of been history.
I mean, it's completely logical.
It makes a little bit more sense.
I mean, if you had to draw that on a diagram or a
Mhm.
schematic, you would see somewhere at the base where underlying problems. So
Right.
if you don't confront the underlying problems, well, aren't they still there?
They are. That's the thing. You can't take another drug to get rid of your drug problem because you're not handling the actual reasons you're using drugs.
Correct.
People use drugs for a reason. It's not because you're diseased, in my book.
That's right.
It all starts with a choice.
Yeah.
If I had never chosen to try drugs in the first place, I never would have gotten addicted. So, I mean, I don't understand how,
Yeah.
if I take drugs, it wakes up a disease or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
And look, for whatever anyone, works for them, so to speak, the logic of this is what it is. You
Yeah.
build from a base, and that base, if that is the source of your problems, which makes you go, maybe I'll feel better if I dive into this pipe or
Right.
swallow this pill, etc. When you were saying something about the DARE program, one thing I wanted to say was that, and it fits in right now, is that some people don't require the same thing another would.
Right.
For me, literally, experiencing a tad of paranoia
Mhm.
was off the charts way too much for
Oh,
me.
yeah.
And I knew right away, and I had religion in me, and I remember the day going, if I just never feel this again, God, I promise you, I remember looking up, I went, I will never touch another thing, and I didn't.
Mhm.
So, was it because I was not diseased? No, but it was what I needed. And so that DARE officer probably, certain scare tactics would have worked with me. But it's not true for everybody. But I'm
Right.
just saying, in acknowledgement to all education and anyone telling the truth about drugs, good for you.
Absolutely.
Because the truth is the truth is the truth. So
Absolutely.
I just wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm a believer in giving people the information, letting them make their own choices, because you can't control what people do. You can't control their behavior. And when it comes to drug use, you have to arm people with enough accurate and factual information about drugs and let them make the choices that they're going to make. And at least they have the raw information going into it. Hopefully they'll make the right choice.
Right. And the raw information going into from someone who knows and has
Right.
been there, I
Mhm.
mean, I would think that would be priceless as well.
Absolutely.
And a caring heart, because you have
Totally.
the name good.
I have the name good. Yeah, and so I've done...
So you're required.
Yeah, required by law. And so, yeah, I mean, after I got clean, I dedicated my life to helping other people overcome their addictions and get through it. And, since I've been clean, the whole drug crisis has been building and building and building. And it started with opiates.
Yeah.
The opiate crisis is completely out of control. And it was just kind of catching on, right? It was when I was getting clean. And so I kind of watched this thing just kind of build and build and build. And there's kind of a misconception about it, because people talk about the opioid crisis, and when you think of the drug crisis everyone goes to, well, yeah, there's an opioid crisis, there's fentanyl, there's too many diverted medications from pill mills and stuff, and got people...
Sure, you can all
big
list
pharma
out
and
what's
blah, blah,
real
blah.
to you and what you know.
Right, people have to realize it's not just opioids. There's an overall drug crisis, because along with opioids, we also have a methamphetamine crisis, and we have a benzodiazepine crisis, which benzodiazepines are drugs like Xanax and Valium. They're tranquilizers.
Yep.
And so there's three epidemics all kind of swirling around out there.
Yeah.
They're all kind of working with each other to make the overall drug problem just awful.
Yeah, and on that note, I was watching a show yesterday. Actually, we're a little behind, but I was watching Dexter.
Okay.
And I'm a little more hip than the regular guy, knowing when buzzwords are used and just the whole promotion of drugs, the drug culture,
Right.
the take a pill society.
That's us.
And I probably heard the word Xanax 5 times in one show.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, this doesn't happen on accident,
No.
This was like, when I'm having troubles and, my God, Dexter, I have to take a Xanax just to wake up. And I'm like, that doesn't really wake you up. That's not a wake-up drug, so...
It's product placement.
Product placement,
Yeah.
exactly. So there's another part of the problem. So when you were saying benzos, meth, we have a problem because of that.
The overall drug problem is awful right now. It's really, really bad. In Narconon, what we see most of is people on opioids and meth. I mean, those are the two biggest things. I never saw meth, really, when I was out there because it wasn't a thing, but it used to be kind of
Sort
like
of cultural,
yeah, it was like
different
over
pockets.
it was
Yeah.
over in like the West Coast, and
Yeah.
like, every now and then you'd hear of like some meth lab exploding in like Oklahoma somewhere, but
Yeah.
it wasn't.
And for Florida, it'd be like Pasco County, or
Oh,
somewhere in the
Pasco, okay.
woods. You would hear about it, but it's wasn't like you're saying.
It's unbelievable. And so now the Mexican cartels have what they do is they made the ingredients for meth basically impossible to get in enough quantity to make a lot of it in the United States. But in Mexico, you can get tons of it,
Oh,
like no problem.
sure, because when laws tighten up,
Go to Mexico.
there you go.
Right. So they make all the meth there, and the cartels basically distribute it through all the major roadways that go into the United States. So now meth is everywhere. So it's not just relegated in some section of the United States. So basically, we have mostly every city and town across the country flooded with meth, diverted benzos, and opioids. And the opioid problem is scary, to say the least.
Sure.
I've got 15 people from high school alone that I knew that are dead. 15. I stopped counting because it started getting ridiculous.
That's one high school. Those are people you knew. 15.
People I knew that went not necessarily my grade,
Yeah.
but went to my high school that I knew their families and
Yeah.
stuff like that. There's about 15 people that are dead.
And when you say that, that's Boston.
That's outside of Boston.
That area.
Yeah. And that's opioids. And the thing is, they have fentanyl being mixed in with
Right.
heroin, but now fentanyl is being mixed with everything.
Sure.
We just I don't know if you heard about this. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the director's son had an opioid overdose after snorting cocaine.
Because it was laced.
It was
with
like fentanyl. So one of my main goals here is to educate everybody about what's really going on out there, because you can't bury your head in the sand and hope the problem's going to go away,
Right.
because you have to look at it for what it is. And I'm like kind of like being a voice for people who have been through addiction. I'm a voice for people that are having trouble getting sober. You can get sober. You need the right type of help to get clean. But I'm also really, really big in letting everybody know what the problem is out there, because there's a lot of people that don't know it.
That's
And
right.
if you don't know it, there's nothing you can do about
That's
it.
right. You'll ignore signs from your kids or your cousins or your friends or your friends' kids, and the best thing is to just be aware, like anything, right? Knowledge is power. So you have to have the knowledge of what these things are. So on that note, you know that I volunteer at the Drug Free World Center, and drugfreeworld.org has an actual booklet on every drug of use and abuse, whether they're legal drugs, illegal drugs, it doesn't matter. So that's a good educational
It's awesome.
tool.
It's
And
fantastic.
does Narconon still do educational tools?
We
as
do
well?
do drug ed. We actually have new materials coming out, so we're really excited to have
Oh,
those.
good. I'm
Yeah,
excited. Make
very
sure I
excited.
get hold of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are coming out really, really shortly, and so we still do drug education for different groups around, Pinellas County and Tampa and everything like that. And so,
So
we
when
wanna-
you say you do them, do you go out to the schools or
Yeah.
do you invite people in?
both,
Or? Okay,
we'll do
good.
both. It's actually really, really, really neat to see when you actually educate someone and give them like the real information about something they thought they knew about but they didn't know about, but then you give them the real info and they're like, oh,
Right, you
really?
see the light bulb
Yeah,
go
you
on,
kinda
right.
see, oh,
Well,
wow.
look, but that's what it's all about. Everyone needs that light bulb going on, because if you feel the urge to, I even catch myself. I am not a drinker, right? I mean, a cold beer on a hot summer day, lightweight Lynn, that's about it. I like the taste of it. I like the coldness of it, the hops, whatever, it's over.
Okay.
But I have even caught myself, I don't even understand it sometimes, to be funny. I'll say like, oh my God, you're going to drive me to drink,
Mhm.
and then I think, Lynn, people think you actually,
Mean
I'm
that.
thinking like, but why am I even saying it? Like, have I been indoctrinated to like that alcohol will stop my problems? And deep
More
down
than likely.
yeah,
If you look at our media and the media that we consume as a culture,
Yeah.
a lot of it contains alcohol and drug references.
yes,
I mean, we've got rappers now for like the millennial generation that completely glorify popping Xannies,
yeah,
Xanax.
Yeah.
There's actually a rap, and they're usually like these little skinny guys, and their faces are tattooed, and they have like the grills in, and it's
Yeah.
like a little bit.
yeah, Yeah.
And there's
Degraded,
actually
let's
there's
just say
there's
it,
one of these guys is called Lil Xan. That is his name.
unbelievable.
Because he
just
is
go
told-
right for it.
Promotes
Yeah,
just popping Xanax, and that's the thing, and that's like that's what our kids are consuming a lot of.
yeah.
And also, we're only one of 2 countries in the whole world that allows direct consumer marketing
That's
from
right.
drug companies.
That's right. We're the biggest offenders of drug treaties. It's sad, really.
Because I've had people come from other countries, and I've been talking to them about this. Like, oh yeah, but they don't do that. It's illegal where I live.
And you're like, yeah,
I'm like,
just turn on the TV. It's
Like,
on.
wait a second. Yeah, because you turn on the TV for 4 hours, you're gonna watch about an hour of pharmaceutical commercial.
That's right.
And it's like we became they want us to be our own doctors. Well, ask your doctor, such and such drug is right for you.
Yeah.
So you just basically tell your doctor what you want. You walk out with whatever you need. It's like,
Exactly.
hey.
You see it enough, you know that's what it's about.
It's a little bit nuts, but
Yeah.
you know, I think that everyone just needs to know what's going on out there. We have a great blog on our website, which is can I plug that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to do next.
Okay,
Do
good.
it.
It's our website is www.narconon-suncoast.org, and there's a blog on there. I write some of the articles, and there's a lot of useful information on there about the drug crisis, about drug abuse, how to look for signs and symptoms of addiction, and stuff like that. And I think it'll help anybody that needs the information. And if you're already a voice against the epidemic, it'll give you some more things to talk about.
Yeah.
More
So it's Narconon
Suncoast.
Suncoast, because we're in the Suncoast here in Pinellas County. Narconon.suncoast.
No,
No, I'm sorry. Narconon-suncoast.org.
Yes.
And Jason and I just realized, Jason, we have to do a bigger event. Let's prepare. Let's
Okay.
do one where the two of us do a good seminar and we'll promote it. I think our friends here locally would like that. I think we'll have refreshments. We'll do something good.
Oh, I like refreshments.
I
Those
think
are
with
always
your new
good.
materials too, we'll do something great.
We should absolutely. I think it'd be wonderful.
Jason Good on Facebook also.
Yeah, you can reach me on Facebook. You can also call me in the center if anyone ever has questions.
Oh, give them the number.
Yeah. If anyone has any questions about drugs, the drug crisis, or if you have a loved one that needs help, you can call us at area code 727-304-4176. And you can talk to a counselor totally confidentially, privately. You can even do it anonymously if you like. But we want you to have the information you need if it's going to mean the life of yourself or someone else.
Absolutely. So do that, folks, because when Jason says it's confidential, he means it, and he'll help you. I think we're out of time. That went really fast. I want to thank everybody for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And I'll see you again next week on the Talk of the Town, Tuesdays at 5. Bye-bye.